Danny Ainge, more like Danny ain't there anymore. The Boston Celtics announced Wednesday that Danny Ainge is retiring and coach Brad Stevens is being promoted to president of basketball operations. What? This just a day after the Celtics bowed out of the playoffs to the Brooklyn Nets in 5 games. Ainge has been at the helm for 18 years, with his greatest achievement being Kevin Garnett dragging that team to a 2008 title. Since then, Ainge accumulated a ton of young talent, draft picks, and was notoriously always on the brink of making that big trade. And luckily, you'd find out the day after the trade deadline what that big trade almost was, but couldn't quite turn the corner, or even close for that matter, despite making the conference finals several times in the last 4 years. Never actually a real contender in that sense. So, one last note, Brad Stevens and the Celtics will be looking for a new coach. Coach K just retired from Duke, or he's retiring from Duke after the season. Coach K, anybody handling that? Marcus, how would you define the legacy of one Danny Ainge?
Let's see. Is the greatest thing Danny Ainge ever did was hitting Mario Elliott in the face with the ball? Like, was that?
Wow. Look, this dude was basically a professional Major League Baseball player. He's Danny
Ainge was a professional irritant, and he was really good at his job, and he made big shots. And I actually think he's excellent at like evaluating how to dump, when to dump players and when to trade them in for draft picks. It's the second part he can't do, right? It's the, now what do I do with these picks? What's more striking to me is how Brad Stevens continues to fail up. It is unbelievable the charmed existence he has. And look, we know charmed existence. Like Steve Kerr, it has a charmed existence.
You're looking at one right here in the Zoom.
But he at least won 3 championships. Like Brad Stevens loses and gets promoted. Like, I don't even understand this. What universe do you bow out like this every year? I guess you made it to Eastern Conference Finals one time, and somehow you end up on top of the game.
Well, that's the thing, Marcus. They made it 3 out of the last 4 years prior to this season, but we're like, no one ever thought like, oh, this team's going to make the finals. They made it because the East sucked.
But wasn't that a talent thing? I mean, if nobody was ever. There was one season where people were juiced on them and thought they could potentially win a championship, right? I don't think that people ever came away from it thinking that, oh my God, Brad Stevens should have elevated this Celtics core to winning a championship. Are we sure this is really getting a promotion? I mean, we act like it because on the org chart, the GM is the coach of the coach, the boss of the coach. But it's not really like that. Coaches tend to get paid more than GMs. To my mind, I'm not sure that this is necessarily a promotion. It seems like an effort to just keep Stevens in the fold of things, but I don't like it at first blush.
Why are you keeping Stevens?
I'm ready to throw out some reckless speculation.
Okay.
I think it was, if you want Brad Stevens to stick around, Danny Ainge's got to go. Why? It's just my job to throw out the reckless speculation. It's your job to analyze it, but that's what I think. I think it's just get him out of here. I want to stay. Promote me up the ladder.
Do you think Brad Stevens is now angelic looking Pat Riley, where it's, hey, we're going to get you upstairs, and when it's time to knife a coach,
yeah, you got it.
You go back in, you swoop in. Hey, when this situation actually is championship worthy, it hasn't been, Brad, but you can come in and do it.
So this next coach is going to get fired in a couple of years, and then the guy after that's going to be the one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the guy after that will be Brad Stevens. Like, oh, we got a winner. I got this. Here we go. I got this. This is weird timing though, right? Like they got injured. Like it almost feels like they're being punished for something that was kind of out of their control. They got injured and they faced Brooklyn in the first round. Like what were they supposed to do?
Something's not adding up. Like the whole thing is weird. Something's not adding up. We're missing some part of this particular story. I don't love it because I think about what's the main thing Brad Stevens brings to the table as a coach that people talk about. It's, from what I've heard, his photographic memory, that he just has a memory for every play and has a certain genius for just drawing up plays that you could never anticipate. That's not really a GM skill, as far as I know. They're not really the same job. I actually remember talking to a certain assistant GM with a certain New England team represented by a certain diminutive ethnic stereotype of a mascot. And he was making the point, and it stuck in my mind, that you've got all these coaches around that time, this is years ago, who were becoming GMs. And yet none of these coaches could think a GM could be a coach and just grab the clipboard like that. So why are they assuming they can do it? Maybe this will work out, but I don't tend to think that coaches are often well suited to be general managers. Being a GM is a very miserable job. It requires a very different skill set. And I don't get it.
I will offer this up, Ethan. I will offer this up, right? To that point, Brad Stevens, when he was Butler's coach, he was essentially a GM, right? Like, you are recruiting, you are evaluating talent, you are trying to bring players into the mix. Yeah, like you are really doing all that stuff. I'm not saying that's going to translate easily to the NBA. It's a very different system, but there is something there.
I'm just saying the dude goes from a job that's known for lasting about 3 years and eventually you're going to get fired to somehow like avoiding that whole part of it. And now you get to go to a job where, I'm going to ride this out for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. He will never get fired. Think about that. Brad Stevens may never get fired. And I don't even know how that's fair. He needs to get fired one time at least. Steve Kerr got fired, right? Like, you got to get fired at least one time.
No, Steve Kerr did not get fired, by the way. He quit and he drove to San Diego listening to the Counting Crows. Yeah, but it was kind of
like you like, I quit because the pink slip is coming.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe.
What a privilege that must be.